Mr. Craig Price, and he's going to tell you more about his work and what he can do and what he's doing to support our young adults, as well as I'd like to introduce our facilitator, Franklin Coker, who's our regional transition coordinator. We're so happy to have him on board here to be our Zoom facilitator. We're hoping that technology works well for all of us. It has been for me on the last day and today as well. And I'm the moderator, Dr. Rosalind Hall. And so it gives me great pleasure to turn it over to our speaker of the hour, Mr. Craig Price. Welcome.
Oh, well, welcome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Dr. Hall, and thank you, Franklin, so much for being here and hosting this meeting and having me as a guest. I remember when this proposal I put together for Improv a year ago was accepted, when we all booked our rooms and we were all going to Orlando, and I was all excited. But I'm really excited because I have been teaching improvisation. First of all, my name is Craig Price. I am the Director of Community Education and Wellness at the Naples Players Theater in downtown Naples, Florida. I've been there for a number of years, but in the last 5 years, I've been focusing on teaching solely wellness classes. And how is improv related to wellness? You guys are going to find out firsthand. Ultimately today, those of you that can turn on your cameras and can turn on your microphones will, because improv, as you know, is a very interactive activity. It is not just one person standing up here talking. It is improvising and interacting with all of you. So ultimately, when I get done with my introduction, I would love for those of you that feel up to it to turn on your cameras, turn on your microphones, and interact with a number of these games I'm going to teach you. So one of the things that I always get asked is, how can improv, or improv comedy as we know it, help me or help my students in the classroom? Well, you as teachers, you as facilitators, you as people in this industry know that improvisation is something you use every day. And it may not be called improv comedy, it may be called redirection, or it may be called finding another thing for my students to do that it's not working right away. I need to find another way. And as you may know, improv, long before it ever became used for comedy, like Whose Line Is It Anyway, and Second City, and all the other places that we do improv comedy, long before that, it was taught by a woman named Stella Adler. And Stella Adler devised games for kids to communicate to each other in the Hull House, it was called. And that was in Chicago, and they were kids of immigrants from all over the world in Chicago that were all speaking different languages and had no way to communicate with each other. And she devised these games to help them learn to communicate with each other. And now they're being used all over the world as an entertainment, but also therapeutically. And if I had any idea when I was at Second City in my 20s that I would be out here teaching therapeutic improv, I had no idea the therapeutic aspects of improv. I knew that I felt better after shows. I knew my audience felt better after shows, but I had no idea that I would be teaching this to students and teachers the way I am today. And for the last year, the Naples Players has been teaching all of our classes online through WebEx and Zoom. We were able to pivot and immediately transition into online classes, and they grew. Not only did I had 8 classes. Now they've grown into 16 classes because they're online. So I have so many people that have, just like this WebEx is growing right now. I love to see all these people growing and tuning in, because improv is an amazing thing that we can use, but also it's something that I've noticed, and I teach so many classes now online through the Collier County Public School System for all transition students. Transitioning, as you know, And in particular, we've been able to work with communication techniques to help students transition out of high school and into the real world, whether that be into the workforce, whether that be into housing, advocating for themselves. It's really been an amazing tool. And I'm going to show you a couple of games off of this list. Hopefully, all of you were able to access the downloadable sheet that you are welcome to take with you and print out. I'm going to teach you a couple of games off of this sheet, and I will show you just basically these are 8 games. There's probably 100,000,008 games that we do in improv, and these are 8 of them. I use a lot of different games for a lot of different reasons, and one of the great things about improv is that you can tweak it to whatever need you have. Whether it be 1 student or 100 students, you can take these improv games and make them work for you. Not only will they work for your students, but they'll also work for you as a teacher, ultimately. And then I'm going to open it up for questions. After we play a couple of these games together, I'm going to open it up for questions afterwards. You can ask questions about improv, about the games that we played, or about any of the other games on the sheet. And again, this is not a one and done class. I encourage anyone and everyone, if you haven't already, get out there and take an improv class, whether it be online or some now theaters are opening up in person. We're starting to teach more in-person classes now. And get out there, take an improv class. It's been a life changer for me since I was 20, I'm now 55. So it's been something that's been involved in my life ever since. I also have 2 kids with sensory needs. Both kids, I actually got involved in teaching kids with autism improvisational games because of my 2 children. And I also have a mom and a dad who my dad just recently, my stepdad just recently passed away with dementia, and my stepmom currently is living with frontal temporal dementia. And I've found that the improv games I teach to kids also help care partners. And, you know, all this stuff is now based in science. We have a lot of folks that have actually been testing how the brain changes when we teach improv. So you tell me at the end of this whether your brain changed during these games. All right, I want to know. So what is improv? What is improvisation? Well, it's making it up, right? We make it up off the top of our heads. In a show, we step out, we say, hey, give me a location, give me a suggestion. Oftentimes, we're asking for emotions. And we know that our students oftentimes have difficulty sharing and showing emotions and also recognizing those emotions in others. And boy, do we ever have a hard time recognizing emotions now, right? So as we know, this has become the most difficult thing in not only sharing and showing emotions and recognizing emotions, but communication is way down. And so we are currently teaching classes online for kids. And I'm like this in my classes online in WebEx, and my kids are in all their own individual machines at their desks. Some are able to stand, others aren't. Some are able to move, others aren't. Some are able to be verbal, others are not. But every improv game I'm going to teach you, every child, every student, every adult can participate at their own level. You know, when you hear improvisation, you think of whose line is it anyway? And how can Colin Mockery and all those crazy guys doing all those crazy games, how are my kids going to be able to participate in that, right? And it's like nerve-wracking watching how fast those guys talk. Well, these games I'm going to teach you, we slow it down. We share emotions, we recognize emotions, and everybody is able to participate at their own level, verbally or non-verbally, physically or emotionally. And it's really a way for you to take these games and make them your own. I've borrowed these games from all the places I've trained over the years, starting at Second City and now currently in Naples. I have played these games as an improviser in a show environment, but I've also taught these games in a classroom environment, and you can take them and teach them too. I don't own them. Nobody owns these games. They will be yours, okay? So if you need this sheet, you're welcome to print it out. Here is a list of games. All right, and I'm going to teach you 2 of these games that I find most beneficial in the classroom, at least initially, to help break the ice. All right, and so if you can see this list of games, give me a thumbs up. All right, good deal. Technology is on our side. So we have the 2 games that I am going to teach you today are Miss Ruby Dance and Animal Poses. Animal Poses is going to be our first game because that's more self-explanatory, more accessible, and probably is a lot more what it sounds like. And Miss Ruby Dance is this goofy game that we have kind of developed based on another game. And that's how a lot of improv games happen. One person teaches you one game and then you take it and you teach it a different way. And it's like a story. It just develops and gets passed on from generation to generation. So I'm going to teach you those 2 games, Animal Poses and then Miss Ruby Dance. Now, of course, I can't just stand up here and do these games. I'm going to have to ask you guys to turn on your microphones and share with me. Also turn on your video and share with me, because we have to show each other and we have to be able to hear each other. We could just show it physically, or we could share verbally, or both. So ultimately, those of you that feel up to it will do this with me. It definitely is much easier to learn if you're actually doing the games. So that is the sheet, Animal Poses and Miss Ruby Dance. Oh, by the way, this sheet, along with a number of other letters that we've received from students and teachers about how effective these games were in their classrooms, are a part of the presentation. If you look on your presentation link, it gives you all those materials. You're welcome to take a look at any of those materials, as well as the videos that were attached. And also, like I said, it's not a one and done class. You guys can take this class in particular that I teach every Thursday night online, called LOL, Laugh Online. Every Thursday night, I teach a class for adults. It's adults like you and me that are just looking to try improv. Oftentimes, these are folks that have never done it before, or adults that have more experience. Every Thursday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can register at naplesplayers.org, which is our website here at the Naples Players. Now let's get into Animal Poses. What do you say? I'm going to take down this sheet. We're going to see how many people want to turn on their camera and turn on their microphones, and we're going to share Animal Poses. Now, the whole idea of this game is it's a great start to sharing and recognizing emotions. So, and especially with masks on, it is much easier to act like an animal than to show me that you're sad. It's much easier to recognize that you're a bear than if you're sad. It's much easier to recognize that you're an angry bear than if you're sad. So this game really is about just showing us an animal. And it also gives each of the students the opportunity to be in the spotlight. Now, as you know, some students like that and some students do not like that. But once they get the feeling of, oh, I recognize that animal, and they guess that animal, they get to be the next animal. And what they'll do is they'll choose an animal of their, whatever animal they want to imitate, and then they will imitate that animal. The first student to recognize that animal gets to imitate the next animal. And ultimately, they're doing different animals each time. And ultimately, they're able to do it right in their screen. Like I said, with our classes anyway, in Collier County, oftentimes I'm teaching and the kids either have me up on a big screen and they're in the classroom moving around, or in their desks moving around, or they have their own machines and they're just doing it right in their screen. So I'm going to ask that you either stand up or get in your screen, and I'm going to imitate an animal. And the first person that can guess that animal, either by putting it in the chat or by turning on their microphone and yelling out what that animal is, you get to go next. All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Give me a thumbs up if you guys are ready. All right. I love it. I love it. There's 40 of you on this call, and there are almost half of you with your cameras on. I dig that. That is great. That's a good number. It's a good number because oftentimes improv is very intimidating, but you guys are up in front of people every day. And Federico, he has been up in front of a couple hundred people every hour. So I'm ready to teach you this game. So animal poses. All right. Remember, the first one to guess the animal correctly will get to be next. Okay. So don't guess unless you want to be next. All right, here we go. Here's our first animal.
Bunny.
Hey, here we go.
Oh, no.
Bunny.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Bunny. All right. And
here's my animal.
Spotlight our next person, and she is going to show us her animal. Ooh, any guesses there?
A snake.
A snake?
Nope.
No.
Nope. I can't really.
Fish. Somebody said fish in the chat.
No, I'm not doing it very well, am I?
No, I'm right with you. I got
Turtle. Turtle.
Yeah,
Next victim.
Oh, that would be me. I don't know what to be.
All right. So, that's all right. While you're thinking about it, not a problem. We'll go back to gallery view and we'll let you. Who was our next victim? She said.
Megan.
Hi, Megan. All right. So before I spotlight you, I'll let you think about it. And one of the things that I think is great about this game, and those of you that noticed, everybody's animal is going to look different, right? And they're the only ones that know what animal they did. Now, oftentimes assistants within the classroom will do what I'm about to do with Megan. The assistant in the classroom will give Megan or give the student an animal that they can try. And then they know that if somebody guesses that animal, that it's the correct animal. Oftentimes students who will be acting like a bunny and somebody guesses deer will just say yes, because they don't want to act like a bunny anymore. And they'll just say, yes, deer, deer. Oh, I don't want to do it anymore, which is okay, right? There's nothing wrong with that. One of the beautiful things about improvisation are these rules of improv, or they're not really rules. They're more like suggestions, listening, teamwork, letting go of mistakes. I love that one. I was taught that at Second City the first day. We get to let go of mistakes. There are no mistakes in improv, only happy little accidents, just like Tina Fey says in her book, Bossy Pants, right? And the other one is the yes and philosophy of improv, where we say yes, like you guys just did, and you get to add something to it, because you know everybody else is playing by the same rule of yes and. It's such an amazing way to communicate and to build something together as a team. So now Megan has decided what animal she's going to do.
Yes, I have.
Yes,
are we ready?
We love that.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Oh goodness.
Megan.
So I'm swimming.
Oh, she's swimming.
A shark, dolphin.
Shark.
Shark. All right, here we go. Very nice, Megan. And our next person that guessed, we're going to do one more. Excellent, Megan. That was great. And you actually did a shark without doing the Jaws soundtrack, which is surprising. Most adults, when they do a shark, do da 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 da.
So I like to scuba dive, and I dive with sharks. So I will never do Jaws.
Oh,
I love sharks.
I bet. Absolutely. So yeah, and it's funny because when adults do the Jaws soundtrack, most kids go, "What? What is that? I've never seen that. Don't even know what that is." Okay, who is next? Who is our last contestant?
Well, I said shark. I don't know.
All right, Tracy. Do you know what animal you want to do, Tracy, or do you need?
Sure.
You got it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay,
Okay.
now remember, we can all yell it out because we're not going to do another one after this. I'm going to teach you a new game. All right. So here we go. Tracy,
All
here we go. I'm going to give you the spotlight.
right. Okay. So, okay, I'll just do it.
Elephant.
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 Hey, elephants. All right. Very nice. Excellent. Way to go. Well, so now I don't know if I'm spotlighted on your screen right now. I
Yeah.
am? Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just kind of explain a couple of different things, a couple of different scenarios that happen in that game that maybe you guys would recognize happen in your classroom every day in terms of just daily communication. So what would you say is probably the most valuable aspect of that game? What can we take away? And I like to call them takeaways. What are some of the best takeaways from that game for you as a teacher, as a parent or an administrator, or you for your students? What do you think are some of the best takeaways? Well, let me tell you this. Did anybody feel good? Who felt good when they were doing it, right? Whether you were watching other people play. Oh no, she's like, no, I didn't feel good.
Well, I think one thing though is being able to make mistakes, like you had mentioned, being able to just let go of the, being embarrassed, because once you get over it, you can, kind of helps.
Exactly. It helps. And one of the things I hear a lot too is that I wasn't thinking about COVID. That I was not thinking about COVID the whole time. I was thinking about my animal. And then when I was watching other people, I see engagement, encouraging interaction in a fun way, movement and oxygen in the brain. Oh boy, you haven't even gotten me into the warm-up exercises that I do, which are all about movement and oxygen in the brain, and engagement. Everyone feels good. Even those who didn't participate, that's great. It's a great way to get to know each other, and being in the moment. Oh man, we talk about that a lot. And that was one of our participants who was an excellent animal. She says being in the moment, thinking on your feet. And all of our improv games, are ultimately thinking on their feet, building community. I love these suggestions. These are great. And you're absolutely right. And again, there are no wrong answers. There are no wrong answers to this. Whatever you felt from that game is right. If you liked it, that's great. If you didn't like it, that's okay too. So it's something you learn something about yourself as a student when you play this game. The other thing that we then talk about as a takeaway is, okay, so you were able to recognize those animals that those students were imitating, right? And how were you? Why were you able to recognize Robert when he did a bunny, or Sarah when she was doing the elephant? I know I'm not using the correct names here, but the kids are like, well, I recognize it because she had a trunk, or I recognize it because he had ears, right? Well, how would you recognize it if one of your fellow students was sad? How would you know when they have a mask on? How do you know that they're sad? If they're pouting like that, you may not even know, right? So we talk about what are some things the body does, just like we did with animals. What are some things the body does when you're sad? We slump the shoulders. We hunch over a little bit. We might hold our head in our hands, right? And so we start talking about some comparisons on what are some similar things that your body does when it's sad, happy, mad, scared. And so it really helps us to get connected with the emotions. Because the next game we're going to do, Miss Ruby Dance, is all about emotions. And it can be played verbally or non-verbally with the assistance of the teacher or another helper or student in the classroom. All right. So Miss Ruby Dance, I'll keep myself spotlighted just for this particular example. And why it's called Miss Ruby Dance, I have no idea, but the kids seem to love it. Then the fact that I put the dancer on the screen, between the two dance games, they are the most popular games I do. Freeze Dance and Miss Ruby Dance. And you probably all know what freeze dance is. When the music stops, you have to freeze, right? So I'm able to share my music. They all say, those are boomer tunes. We don't like your music, Mr. Craig. All my boomer music, I play my boomer music for them, and we dance and freeze. Those two are the most popular games. Miss Ruby Dance, second most popular game. And it goes like this. Each student that wants to participate gets to say Miss Ruby Dance, those exact words, Miss Ruby Dance, in an emotion or with a hand gesture or some way that they can communicate how they're feeling to their fellow students. And then everybody in the room repeats it just like them. So if I were to say, Miss Ruby Dance, everybody in the room would yell, Miss Ruby Dance. And even if they can't say Miss Ruby Dance, they can show the hand gesture. And somehow, ultimately in our bodies, we know how that feels. We know what this means, right? And then once they repeat it, I'm able to say Miss Ruby Dance another way. Some students get into it and they'll do it a couple different ways. And everybody repeats it 3 different times. And the last one goes like this, and this is where the dance comes in. You get to say, and she danced like this, and you do a dance. And some students love that, and some students hate that. So it really depends on the student. But the funny thing is, again, you get to see all your other students imitating you, doing exactly what you're doing. And it's such a great feeling to be in charge like that. Wow, it's oh my gosh, everybody's doing my dance. And so some students really like to show their moves. All right, and it can be simple or it can be full on Miss Ruby Dance. All right, so I'm gonna take off my spotlight and I'm gonna show you, actually I'm gonna invite you to come participate in Miss Ruby Dance with me. And I love to do this game and freeze dance at the very end of the class. It seems to be the biggest hit at the end of class. It's kind of a reward for all of our hard work that we've done with all the other games and talking about emotions. All right, so those of you that have your cameras on, I am going to count on you participating in this one. I'm going to say Miss Ruby Dance, and I would love you to repeat it. And then I'm going to say, and she danced like this, and I'm going to do my funky moves, and I want you to try it with me. All right, are you ready? Give me a thumbs up if you guys are ready for Miss Ruby Dance. All right, there we go. Excellent. Oh, and I love using the reactions and giving the thumbs up. As you know, WebEx, that's a great thing. Even that key that you can hit on WebEx that will actually put your hand up for you if you just raise a hand. I love that. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? Miss Ruby Dance.
Miss
Ruby Dance.
Miss Ruby Dance.
Miss Ruby Dance.
And she danced like this.
And she danced
like this.
Excellent. And then, because I was so brave and I got to do it, I get to pick the next person. And that's part of the game, is that I get to pick the next person to do it. All right. So one of our other, LaTanya Green. I think LaTanya Green wants to be our next contestant on Miss Ruby Dance. All right. Now, as quiet as she says it or as loud as she says it, we repeat it just like her. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Miss Ruby Dance.
Miss
Ruby Dance. And she danced like this.
And she danced like this.
And she danced like this.
All right.
Dance like
There we
this.
go. Excellent. Very
I'm
nice.
dizzy now.
Okay, now you get to
Good job, LaTanya.
Yeah, LaTanya. Who are you picking to go next?
So of course, I'm gonna pick Rosalind Hall to go next.
Oh, there we go. Dr.
gonna kill
Hall
me.
is going next. I warned her that her and Franklin were going to have to participate. Okay,
Okay,
here you go, Dr.
here we
Hall.
go.
All right,
Miss Ruby Dance.
Miss
Ruby
Dance.
And she danced like this.
and she
And she
danced
danced like this.
Yeah, woo, yeah, excellent, very nice. All right, there we go. Now, Dr. Hall, you get to pick the next contestant on Miss Ruby Dance.
Okay, I need to see all my participants. Let's see. I'm going to choose. Let's go with Beverly. Beverly Riley.
Beverly. All right, Beverly.
I don't see pictures. I'm looking at names.
You're
Is
looking at
Beverly
names.
still?
Uh-oh. I see
I'm
Beverly.
here.
Beverly Riley. There she
Hi.
is. All right.
There you are. Hi, Beverly.
Miss Ruby Dance,
Miss
Ruby
Ruby Dance.
and she danced like this.
All right. Dance like this.
Oh,
Yeah, awesome.
there we go. Beautiful.
That was good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now you get to pick the next one. And we are going to leave. This is going to be the big finale, Beverly. So you get to pick our final contestant on Miss Ruby Dance.
Okay, I think I'm going to pick Matt Foster.
Matt Foster. All right, Matt Foster. Let's see if we can find Matt Foster, who is going to join. There he is, Matthew
Sorry.
Foster. Very nice. Matthew Foster. All right.
Everybody's sorry. I was eating, so I'm off.
Oh, good.
You're gonna be dancing now.
In improv class, unless you bring enough for the whole class.
That's right.
Okay, let me see because I'm listening with half an ear.
Okay, so you get to say Miss Ruby Dance any way you want, and we will repeat it just like you. And then you get to say, and she danced like this, and show me your funky moves. And we're all going to do your funky moves with you as we repeat. And she danced
Okay.
like this.
All
No
right.
pressure at all.
Yeah.
All right.
Because apparently she's seen you dance before.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm going to.
Okay. Miss Ruby Dance,
Miss
Miss
Ruby.
Dance.
and she danced like this.
Oh, it's like this. Oh, yeah.
Good job.
Oh, very nice. Let's give them a round of applause. Excellent. Very nice. And let's give a round of applause to all our volunteers. And, you know, I also do the Zoom round of applause as well, because I know my kids never applauded at the plays that I put on and I could never figure out why till they were diagnosed with sensory processing disorder. And I thought, that's why we don't like that sound. So we do Zoom applause as well as this applause, but let's give everybody a round of applause, whichever way you want to do it. Zoom applause and this applause. Yes, the happy hands like we do at our sensory friendly productions at the Naples Players. We have been doing one sensory friendly show for every run of our shows back when we were in person. But now post-COVID, we'll be doing some other special things as well for our sensory friends. So I want to open this up to a little question and answer after in just a few minutes. But first, I wanted to get a takeaway from that game, Miss Ruby Dance. It's a little more high-level game, and it requires some different techniques as a teacher, but also as a student. So what are some of the takeaways that you get from Miss Ruby Dance? Oh, someone said, that's my principal. Great principal dance. Helps people to let down their guard and we encourage each other. Yes, absolutely. Yep, as we let down our guard, that is a great way to get students to lead. And you'll find, I see opportunity to lead. You'll find students, after they do it a couple times, they watch other kids do it. They're like, I want to do it too. I want to lead. Creative, builds community, willing to be vulnerable. That is a good one, because that is a different thing for us as human beings, but also as students, especially in my middle school, high school age students. They have a hard time with that. And engagement. Yep. Letting them follow their peers, encouraging each other. Yeah, because we're encouraging each other to be and also the ones that may not get a chance to participate otherwise, usually we're encouraging them too. You know, they're the ones that everyone gets encouraged when they do this, and it is so much fun. Did anyone have a good time while you were watching other people do those silly things, whether you were involved or not? Good.
Absolutely.
Jennifer says, yeah.
I was gonna say, especially for our students, they watch so much TV, but then they never really get the chance to be the actor. So I think that that's kind of cool, because they do, you know, that doesn't happen often where they get to perform. A lot of them don't know how to do it. So it's a good time to learn that. They do, you know, relate to a lot of characters on TV.
You're absolutely right. And they are welcome to use those characters as inspiration in all of our improv games. All the games that you see on those sheets, they can use a lot of that as inspiration. The other thing you mentioned, watching TV, playing games, locked in our phones. I have found so many parents have said that their students have improved in their eye contact because of these games, whether they be in person or even on the screen, because they're looking right at the screen. I'm looking at so many different sets of eyes right now, and it helps me to be less intimidated when I'm in person looking at eyes. I teach a lot of classes for a group called Star Ability in Naples, Florida, and they are a group for kids and adults with disabilities. And we definitely have heard from a lot of parents, they are so much more interactive at home now, and they're so much more interactive on the phone with grandma and grandpa. So that's wonderful to hear. What else? What other takeaways from that game?
I think it allows students to be to individualize in terms of them. They're choosing the moves, so to speak. It's not being dictated to them. Right. They can do whatever they choose to, and I think that's a way of being accepted. What a beautiful thing, giving our students and adults choices.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you're right. They're able to make those choices, and they're able to see that they work. Because watch all the other people do it too. So, oh my gosh, that's a success right there.
Exactly.
You know, there's so many studies being done now in terms of improv and how it creates all these wonderful chemicals in our brain. You know, I knew that from the very first time I did it in class, and I heard that applause. I got that dopamine shot in my brain, and I loved it. And that's, you know, catching the bug. That's what happened for me. But you get that as a student, just watching your fellow students do those moves with you. So that's absolutely right. And now they've run a study where they put an improviser named Colin Mockery, who's on Whose Line Is It Anyway? They stuck him in an MRI, and they did an MRI of his brain while he was improvising musically. He was singing songs and making up lyrics. And they've done it to jazz musicians. They've done it with improvisers as actors. And there's they show how the brain works in improv, and it's pretty amazing stuff, but we see it every day. I wanted to open it up for questions because I know my time's up at 2:15.
So Craig, there's a question in the chat box that says or asks, I only see the names of the games. Are there directions somewhere for the other games? We're all very interested in having those instructions.
Yes. Well, you know, there's no secret to these improv games. You can find them online in a number of different places. There's one of the great improv schools published a whole manual, a huge manual. They are no longer in business now due to COVID, unfortunately, but it's called Upright Citizens Brigade. The Upright Citizens Brigade has a improv manual, and you can look it up online. Also, you'll find games like this, but they may be called different names. Also, if you come to my classes at the Naples Players, I teach all of these games on Thursday nights. We do versions of these games every Thursday night with adults, and it's at 6 o'clock. I know sometimes it's difficult at the end of the day, but we laugh a lot. We have a great time. It's called
So
Laugh.
correct, for those of us that live more northern, if you will, and cannot come to your class.
Oh, it's online.
It's online. I was going to ask. Perfect.
Laugh online.
Yes.
Yep, that's right. But if you don't have any classes near you, or you can't tune into my class online, there are a number of, I see somebody just put, Franklin did, look at that, Upright Citizens Brigade, Improv Manual. Man, that was nice. That is why he is the Zoom master. So that's impressive. Yeah, that's it. That's a great one. I also have an app on my phone. It's Instant Improv is the name of it. And in that Improv app, it not only gives me the names of games, but Instant Improv also provides me with how to play the games. Instant Improv, free app on my phone. And I use that all the time. And I'll just look up games and I'll hit it and it'll explain how to play it. It also has a cool thing on there where it's got a timer and it's got suggestions. So because so many of our students need a little helping hand on how to get started. And thank you for the plug in there, Naples Players. Our outreach program, I teach classes for Collier County Public Schools. I'm happy to teach classes for any county all over the country, really. But I'm currently teaching for Collier County. I teach all my classes online primarily.
Nice. Very nice. Wow.
What other questions do we have in the 2 minutes I have left?
Any questions of our presenter? You did a fabulous job, Craig.
Well, thank you.
Energized. I can imagine someone being in your class and not being energized. I mean, really, because you're so authentic, if you will.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We do another game called the Name Game with our classes for kids teaching improv interview skills. And I do a lot of interview skills and games specifically tailored towards that. We do a game called the Name Game, and I have probably 100 kids in Collier County that call me Coffee Craig. For that very reason, I get Coffee Craig all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to touch on something that Carolyn said. You didn't make everyone have a turn or force them to do their cameras or mics by allowing and also encouraging the emoticons. That is so important in these classes online as well as in person, is that I don't force anyone. It is volunteer. And as much as I can encourage them, the teachers know them better than I do. And so they know that a student might need a little extra helping hand to get involved. And once they do, they love it. But also, yeah, I don't force anyone, and people are encouraged to use their emoticons to respond and interact with each other.
So Craig, if you remind us, what are the age groups of students and young adults that you work with?
Right now, well, I work with kids ages 8 to 18, and then of course 18 to 22 before they age out of the school system. And then I also work with adults as well, all with developmental disabilities, primarily autism. But I do have a number of other kids that will participate with me in a chair, who are not able to move and do have movement issues. So we participate at whatever level we can.
That's awesome.
I did see someone ask for the app, and they said it's instant improv. Instant improv.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, everyone, please join me in thanking Mr. Craig Price for a very engaging, interesting, awesome presentation. If your blood wasn't flowing when you started, it should be flowing very nicely at this time.
Yes,
Thank
I
you
hope
so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it, and we'll give the applause. Thank you. I like
Absolutely.
Hey.
Enjoy the rest of the conference. And
I
thank you
will. I
again.
hope everybody else enjoys.